Are you thinking about moving to Branson, Missouri? Well, here are some reasons why you might want to move to Branson, Missouri, and here are some cons of why you do not want to move to Branson, Missouri. So, starting with a pro, number one, affordability. I've been to a lot of other places in the United States, and Branson is affordable comparable to other areas. However, on the other side of that coin is most of the work is seasonal, and it's hard to pay for your apartment or your way of living around here, even though groceries aren't as expensive as other places, and the cost of going out to eat and going to the movies and things like that aren't relatively expensive, but the pay is not going to match what you're probably currently making. So this is something that you guys got to think about before you decide to load up and move to Branson, Missouri. A lot of people think that it's just a great place and everything, and they think they're going to go work for Silver Dollar City and they're going to go and just have this fantastic experience. And in reality, a lot of people get here and they're severely disappointed in that regard. To me, Branson is a lot more fun to visit than what it actually is to live here. And honestly, I'm trying to move out of here myself, so definitely an area though that has been dying off over the last several years. And its prime time was definitely in the 90s when you had all the country stars and they were all right here on the strip. Branson still gets tourists, don't get me wrong, but the industry is definitely dying, and definitely not as much to do around here. It's just going to continue to die off. And a couple of things that are holding it around right now. One is for Silver Dollar City. A lot of people come here for that. Some people come from other countries just to go to Silver Dollar City. It's a theme park here. But that's about the only thing of why people like that come from other countries. People don't see shows as often as they used to because the shows, there's a few in town that are worth seeing, but for the most part, the shows have gone drastically downhill, and a lot of it has to do with these shows that used to have the old timers in them, and they were really good, and their kids just don't quite have the mojo of their parents, so the shows are going downhill more and more. There is some other reasons, though, why you guys might want to move to Branson for having things to do, especially if you live way out in the middle of nowhere right now. There is quite a bit of stuff to do. I've did everything in town probably 20 or 30 times by now. But if you're somebody like me, after you've done all that stuff a couple times, then it's like, well, what else is there to do? So you go to Springfield, you go to other areas like that. You really got to branch out after you did some things in town, because a lot of Branson is a lot like Pigeon Forge to me. Once you've been and did a couple things, it's all pretty much the same. And Branson and Pigeon Forge, Tennessee are pretty much the same places. The only difference is that everybody always complains about the housing in Branson, and it is hard to get good housing. But I have looked around Pigeon Forge for like housing and stuff, and you got to get so far out in Pigeon Forge just to be able to get housing. So Branson definitely has an uphill leg on that, so to speak. Definitely a better area for that. However, Pigeon Forge does pay more, but if you're having to drive an hour, hour and a half out down the mountains every day to go to work, then what are you really accomplishing there? Now, Branson does have a few other key points. One is we do have all the lakes around here, so fishing, if you're an outdoorsman, if you're into the outdoors, there's a lot of that. There's also a lot of hiking trails around here that people really love going hiking and stuff, so if you're an outdoors type person, love doing that, or love going floating, things along that line, because we have a lot of creeks and stuff around here as well, so you end up getting that whole experience. Another con, though, is if you're thinking about coming here, it's a Midwest thing in general, but it happens in Branson, it happens in the state of Missouri, pretty much all the way around. You are going to get all 4 seasons every year, and some people like that, some people may not like that. However, by getting all 4 seasons every year, sometimes you get them all on the same day. Get the thunder, snow, and you might have a tornado that is hurling all kinds of crazy things at you, like the snowballs are on fire and the tornado is throwing them at you. not really. Disclaimer there. But seriously though, guys, you do get all 4 seasons, and you do experience them all in the same day sometimes, and it can be hard for your body to adjust to it, and you start feeling ill and stuff though. And the summers get hot, and the winters do get cold. Last winter we got down to -7 degrees, and pipes froze and busted because that's colder than what we're normally used to. So if you're a person that doesn't like cold, definitely on that. But on the other side of the spectrum, the heat, we haven't been as hot this year, but last year, hottest day on record for the month of August, 122 degrees. So we haven't got that hot this year. It's been a really great summer here for us, but it's something that you've really got to think about. Are you serious about that? Serious about wanting to move to an area to where you're going to experience all that? The other thing is, we are a tourist town in Branson, so we definitely get a lot of people from out of state, and that includes getting a lot of bad drivers. And people take their time, and the strip can become insanely crowded. And those of you who've been to Branson before actually know this, I'm sure. But the strip can get insanely crowded, insanely quickly. And even if you know the back ways, sometimes those are backed up and crowded. But the roads have gotten a little bit better since years ago, but they're putting in a lot of roundabouts and stuff like that. So if you don't like a lot of traffic, Branson's not going to be for you. And when it gets out there on the strip, guys, it gets backed up from one side of the strip to the other. And if Silver City's like really busy, it can be backed all the way down from Silver City all the way back into town. It's happened. It happened whenever I worked out there. It definitely happens all over the place. Now, there are some other things to think about, though, guys. Is Branson the type of area that you want to live in? Big Christian community, a lot of churches here and everything. However, there is some fraud to that as well. There's organizations that say they're Christian and they're not. They just do that to try to lure people in. So beware of that. Some of the locals get very aggravated at people coming in, so just know that ahead of time. They really don't like people moving here because they'll tell you Branson's already overcrowded, and Branson is pretty overcrowded, but a lot of people move in and they move out within 6 months because they turned out they did not like being here. And you may come here and you may love Branson, you may not. Branson has a lot of history to it, and that back in the day it was the music capital of the world, actually, of the United States at least. At one point it was actually above Nashville. Now Nashville has skyrocketed upward again, and Branson is just kind of fallen by the wayside because you just don't have the stars coming here anymore. That could change. Who knows in the future? But it is hard to get jobs here. It is hard to get a job that's year-round. If it does, you're going to have a hard time getting somebody to pay you a livable wage no matter what it is you're doing, because it's just what they do. It's always been a cheap area. They've never paid their workers exactly what they're worth, so just know that. I'm not saying every place is that way, guys, but a vast majority of places are not going to pay you what it takes to actually live. And a lot of people have to work 2 or 3 or 4 jobs because they're just not getting the hours and they're not getting the pay that they need. That doesn't leave you a lot of downtime to do things, so if you're coming for the fun and you're thinking about that, if you're retired, it's an all right area. We also have a lot of people coming out of other states who have moved here over the years, who have skyrocketed the prices. People coming out of states and they retired, they sold their $3 million house, they came here and they bought other houses, so that drove up all the real estate markets. So the real estate market, I know it's out of whack in general, but it's even more out of whack in an area like this, though, as far as buying houses goes. If you want the best deals, if you are going to move to Branson, if you want the best deals on houses, get outside of the city limits. I'm about 16 miles outside of Branson, so that is ideal, and you can get stuff way more affordable on the outside, and then you also pay less taxes that way, and you're not fighting that traffic every day. But really look into it, guys. If you're thinking about moving, if you really want to try Branson, if you really want to try it, move here and try it. But make sure that you do your homework, talk to other locals, and just don't talk to the ones that talk good about it. Also, just don't talk to the ones that talk bad about it. A lot of people go to areas and they study it, and then they only hear people say good things. Well, those people have only been there and they have not lived anywhere else in their entire life. I can tell you, it's not the worst place I've ever lived, but it's not the best place I've ever lived either. And I've moved around quite a bit throughout my life, but I can tell you this though, guys, it is a decent place to live, and I feel like a lot of people will tell you that. You end up meeting some good people and some bad people, just like you do anywhere else. And it's an area though that again has a lot of history to it, especially if you go downtown. There's history there that I don't have time to explain in this video, but if you guys like really like looking at the history of Branson, there's a lot of history there, from the railroad, which you can still go on the train down there and ride and everything else, and just being able to go. Things have changed. They built the landing down there on the waterfront and everything, and that's just the way it is though, guys. Things change, and Branson hasn't changed all that much though. Still the same roads and stuff though. If you go out to the places that you guys have been going to for years, if you haven't been out to Silver City in years, it's the same old place. I guarantee you that you can find your way around. If you've been out there dozens and dozens of times 30 years ago, you can still find your way around because it has not changed that much. And that is one thing though, is Branson's changed, but it hasn't changed a whole lot. So if you're in an area that, a lot of people complain about that though too. They think, well, they need to modernize a lot more stuff and everything. If you're a person that's thinking about putting in a business though, guys, you're competing against people who are already established, that own big businesses and corporations and everything. So also just know that you are at a disadvantage whenever it comes to that. I'm not saying it can't be done, but the taxes and everything will bring you to your knees, from my understanding, if you own a small business, especially if it's in town. And it's just the way it is. And it seems like taxes in town here keep going up, up, up. So keep that in mind as well. And guys, again, come try it if you want to, and or just come and visit, because it's tourist town, and that's what keeps tourist towns afloat. God bless each and every one of you. I'm Jared with General Exploration and Discovery.